All right. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about the mind and everything I've learned about the mind in terms of how it conceptualizes reality, basically, how the mind works in that function. Now, people think in different manners, but we're not going to go into that in this one. We're going to focus on, um, at bottom, no, regardless of whether you're more of a visual thinker or an analytical thinker, really in terms of our foundation for how the mind acquires knowledge and perceives reality and experiences that, how we conceptualize basically anything at all. That's what I want to talk about here. So, essentially, what you'll discover is we're gonna have plenty of videos of how you get to this point. Um, but honestly, just try right now. Just sit there and think about. This will work with literally anything. Take literally any concept, any word that you know, um, like a glass, you know, and think. Keep going. Think about what is a glass, and keep asking yourself that question, and try to break down until the point of some sort of objective reality what a glass is. What you'll realize is you know what a glass is in reference to other concepts. And that's all you know it as. The glass, you'll never get to a point where, oh, this is a glass. You can try to describe it and say, okay, it's a cylindrical object that holds liquids. And then you start asking, okay, what's a cylinder? What's an object? What does it mean to hold liquids? All these concepts they're using to define it. And you're going to break that down further, and you're going to break that down further, and you'll realize that this goes on infinitely. And when you really, really realize, not like, oh, you're inferring this, and you're kind of, you're like, oh yeah, I can see how that works. No, this is something that you can directly experience. You can break down literally everything infinitely. And when you get to that point, you'll get to the point of, I guess, what I would call ultimate duality, where you have two opposite concepts. How a duality works, basically it's a binary. 1 to 0 is black and white, this or that, me versus another. You'll break everything down to that point and realize that because each one is in reference to the other, you can't reference it to like some other sort of anchor. They exist in like relative to each other, and ultimately all those concepts are meaningless. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's completely, um, I guess, ultimately illusory. What we call different objects, we perceive reality, and then we've trained our minds to divide and discern what we process into independent objects. We see things and we'll mentally label them. You know, like I'm looking at a glass, I'm looking at my phone, I'm looking at my camera, I'm looking at the mic. My phone is my camera actually, and so on. And we just kind of we have like a sort of grounding that we base ourselves on. We work with that to create concept. When you really think about it and go really deep into it, and ask yourself, what do I really know? You're going to get to this abstract, you're going to experience infinity. You're going to realize that it's all the same thing, and it's all, a mental, what the mind's doing is creating duality between things, and actually, it's arbitrary where you draw the line. There is no duality. Duality isn't a thing that sort of like objectively exists in reality. Reality is just reality. It's just a oneness. And our mind, through processing reality, has divided it and subdivided it, infinitely divided into various concepts and stuff, so to conceptualize and understand the inexplicable. And when you get to these deep meditative states, you just hold conscious awareness, void of any thought. There's no, the mind can't grasp what the implicit, awareness of this moment is. Ultimately, the only thing you really know is that you're conscious of this moment. If I ask you, are you conscious? You're going to say, well, yeah. Without getting into how you're going to explain it, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? But most of the time, we're either, taking it for granted or taking some explanation as truth, as dogma, when any sort of story you could tell yourself about explaining the fact that we're conscious right now is a story just like any other story, because all those ideas and explanations and things stay at the mind level of conceptualizing, and you can break all of that down to be just as arbitrary as some other story. Both of them could be true. You don't know. All you know is that you're here right now. The science story is, matter, and they're at the quantum level now. They drilled down all the way to quantum level. They're gonna keep going forever, right? But everything's matter. There's an objective reality. The universe just exists. The universe is binary or whatever. It's not human, and then it evolved humans who are brains, and through our neuron patterns, humans became self-aware. We evolved this trait. Sure, that could also be true, but it's not the kind of real truth. It's a story explaining the fact that you're here right now. Did you experience this story? No. You were told this story from someone else. Just like any other, take a religion story, right? If you really start questioning everything, and this is what you go through an existential crisis. This is something that I've been very deep into. You can deconstruct, you can question literally everything except the fact that you're aware of right now. You're aware. And that doesn't manifest itself in words. This is where it gets interesting. And this is what you'll see in, I can't even say you'll see, this is what you'll experience. See without eyes, know without mind, kind of thing. You can experience awareness of awareness. This is it. That moment where you are experiencing just raw awareness, that's nirvana. That is bliss. That is infinite peace and inner peace and bliss, and it's the highest state of conscious experience that I have ever felt. It blows everything else out of the water. It's literally nirvana. This is something that you can experience in your life. This can probably become your whole life. Once you've seen this, you'll realize that our entire society should be built around going down this path and bringing people to this state. That state should be the absolute pinnacle of everything. Should be aligned towards that. These states of confidence, of consciousness, are it's literal infinite bliss. You could just sit there in infinite bliss and not do anything. When the first times I had sort of breakthrough and experienced this, this a state void of mind. See, what happens is when you start identifying, going all the way back and identifying with the observer of the mind. See, there's your body, there's your mind, which is the thinker, which thinks. But you, if there is any concept of you at this point, are not either of these. See, I got caught up in identifying at the mind. I think a lot of people do, probably most people do identify as the mind. That's, you talk to yourself, you think to yourself, right? And I'm sure people started identifying as the body as well. I'm this body. I'm this human, or whatever. But you can wind all that back, all that back. And what you actually are is the observer, the awareness of experience, of which that experience includes the mind, this body, our day to day, and all these other things. So we can start breaking down some concepts. Let's do that. Let's start with a really, really fun one. This one's I think this one will hit hard if you really contemplate this. This could really blow your mind. I know it did for me. Time doesn't exist. Time's not a real thing. We experience things and say that was before, this is after, and with that we create a passing, a sort of linearity to things, where there's a before and after, and time is passing, and there's a future, there's this present, and there's the past. But have you ever experienced the past? Have you ever experienced the future? No. All you've ever experienced is this moment. And in every future moment that you're conceptualizing, you will, in that moment, be experiencing that moment. Same thing for the past. When we have memories, what's happening is you're in this moment getting, mental imagery or whatever. You're labeling it as a memory and saying, oh, that's something that happened before. But it's happening right now. You remembering it is something you're experiencing right now. You can't go back and re-experience that. And even if you could, you would be experiencing that in that moment. You're just conscious, you're aware of this moment. There's no past or present. We imprint that onto our experience of reality. And we can do that through perceiving change. As things change, we say, oh, there was a change there. So there was clearly some difference between the moment where, post change and the moment pre. And so there's linearity, and there's some sort of time passing to things. It's also very, intuitive, given our nature as, humans, our body decays, we get old, and we die, right? So there's this idea of a progression, like a life passing, time passing sort of thing. And when it comes to time, void of this moment, basically all concepts sort of follow suit. You're only aware of this moment. We experience different moments and then attribute some sort of duality to it, some sort of division, be it time, be it some sort of progression or something. But what you really are transcends all of this. You're just an awareness that is here, and you could justify that with a story, or you could not and just appreciate the fact that for some inexplainable reason you're conscious right now, and you don't need to put that into words. This is when you find that inner peace. This is that real good shit. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, this is that real shit. Oh my god. Going back to time, I was talking about how we perceive change and call it time passing. Here's an example I like to use, a sort of thought experiment, I guess. If I showed you a still image on my phone or something, I showed you a still image of, I don't know, some object, doesn't really matter, right? How would you be able to tell if that was a picture or video, right? If it was just still? Well, you would maybe click the screen, try to scroll, and say, oh, it's a picture. It's saved as a PNG. I know it's a picture, right? Or if something moved in the image, like the glass tipped over or something, you saw a leaf blowing in the background, you say, there you go, something happened, something changed. It must be a video. Then time passed, pictures don't move by definition. Pictures are a still image. Now you can get into like GIFs or something. So, oh, maybe it's not a video, but it's a GIF. It's multiple still images combined together. Right, that's what a video is, just at very high frame rate. So it's very smooth. I mean, just look at that, right? What's happening there is it's literally just taking a bunch of individual moments in that moment and then whoop, slicing it all together so smooth that you think time's passing. You think there's something other than just this right now. With the still image, it could be a video of a glass for like 4 hours, but nothing happens in the video, and I show it to you, and how are you going to think it's a picture? How are you going to know? But really, it was actually, I recorded a glass for 4 hours. I'm showing it to you right now. And you're going to think it's a picture. You're going to see nothing's moving. There's no time passing. See how that's through your perception. You choose whether you perceive time or not. You are getting different inputs. You're perceiving different inputs, and you're processing them in an additional way, and then putting some sort of label, some theory, some story on it, and saying, "Oh, time's passing." What if I showed you a still image, and then I overlaid like a little scroll bar, a little time bar with a little play button, and you can press play and pause, and thing progresses through 10 minutes, but nothing happens in the thing. Is it an image? Is it a video? How are you supposed to know, right? And that's that's basically what's happening. You only experience awareness of this moment. And when you really focus on that, when you really dive into that, live in the moment kind of thing, what you'll find is bliss. There's a silence there, void of mind, void of the needing to conceptualize it, needing to think about it, needing to create some story, needing to think about, oh, what am I going to do next? Or remembering some past. As you approach stillness in identifying with awareness, the mind doesn't need to think about anything more, because there's nothing to think about. There's nothing you need to think about. You're just here. Just go with the flow kind of thing. And this is something that I've been experiencing. I've shifted the way I experience reality to focusing on the moment. And my actual day-to-day experience of reality, like what living is like for me, has changed fundamentally because I, through meditation, chose basically, or consciously started perceiving reality differently. I adopted different ways of perceiving things, and I practiced them through meditation, and it has changed my experience of reality. What I would have called reality before is literally different than what it is now. And I realized that you can take this to a whole level. You can change your perception entirely. You create your own reality. There is no objective reality that you need to submit to. I mean, sure, like we live on the world, and there's like, if you perceive this, right, there's other minds, there's other people, there's like world stuff, and we as fellow humans can point to the same thing and call it the same thing, right? There's some sort of implicit understanding there, right? So, but regardless of that, you can't change that. But what you can change is at the perception level. So there's outside elements, right, that you're perceiving, and then when it gets to the sort of consciousness level where you perceive the thing, that's up to you. You can affect how you perceive that. You can literally stop worrying. This has been the biggest breakthrough for me. If I were to summarize in terms of practical sense, so I've been living more and more in the moment. I've tried, hey, you know what? Let's take the approach that everything's great, man. Let's give it a go. this sort of, hippie mentality of, yo, it's all good, man, go with the flow, live in the moment. Um, yeah, what if that's legit? Well, I gave it a go. I tried it out. Let's see what happens. What if I approach life and not worry about anything? What if I only think about now and maybe the thing I'm going to do after now? And that's it. What if I expulse all thoughts, any sort of worrying or any sort of planning about, oh, what am I going to do next? What's going to happen next? Sort of thing. Or I need to do this because later this is going to happen. I got rid of that. I tried it. I've been living like that for basically the last 4 months. For the last 4 months of my existence, I have tried living by just in the moment, by not worrying about things, and my experience of reality has been heaven-like. What if you trust the universe? What is everything gonna work out? Well, give it a go, and you'll find out. And if you really commit to it, if you really, lean into it, from my experience, man, it works. Now there's certain, practical things you can't just stop paying bills and stuff. But to give you, perspective on that kind of stuff too, it's not like I wasn't doing anything. I was on a work term. I was working full time. My work still got done. I still had a great work term. I was still able to get stuff done by deadlines. But so it takes, I guess, a little bit of organization. I was definitely organized with my calendar, so I could move that sort of thought of, okay, there's something that's deadline coming up. Instead of storing that in my brain, I would put it into my schedule, my calendar, and then I moved in like a window of -1 day or -1 or 2 days plus 2 days kind of thing. So I would only ever think about remembering yesterday, if that, the current day, and then the next day. What about, what's going to happen tomorrow? I actually brought it down to a point where, for a period of time, and, when I'm really flowing and making these videos, I'm kind of doing that right now. I'm only thinking about this moment, and I've tried living by just thinking about now, thinking about what I'm going to do after now. And if you keep just thinking about now, you don't need to think about now anymore. That is when you enter the flow, because you just stay here as an awareness, and things just kind of happen. You kind of just end up going with the flow. I don't know how to explain it. There'll be thoughts that come and inclinations that come, and then you might follow them. But when you just kind of stay as an awareness and let the universe take you wherever you're meant to go, kind of thing. I mean, it sounds kind of crazy, but literally it's like that. You're just chilling, and it's amazed me how much everything has worked out. If you look at it from, we try to be, analytical here. If you look at it from a term output perspective, trying to abstract ourselves from my perspective, my point of view of my experience, and just look at the sort of endeavors and output that I've had in terms of stats and performance and stuff. It's the same, if not better than it was relatively before, when I was like really thinking about everything. I was grinding. I was thinking about the future. I was worrying about stuff, conceptualizing stuff. The mind was working a lot, and it was producing about the same sort of thing that I'm doing right now. But how low yield is that compared to this? Same output, huge, like complete opposite input difference, and everything's fine. Nothing bad's happening. There's been a few cases where I was kind of like, ah, shit, if I had thought about that, if I'd actually thought about that before, I would have caught that. Like forgetting something, if you're going on going on a trip or something, going to the grocery store, you forget your mask or something like that, right? And yet, even in those instances, if you kind of just let go of that too, things ended up playing out and it ended up working out fine. You know, maybe I would get in the car and be like, oh shit, I forgot to take my mask. And then I realized, oh, at some point before, I had put an extra one in my glove box. There you go. And those sorts of scenarios kept coming up so often where I questioned, why did I even need to worry about it in the first place? Why did I even need to bother having that thought of, oh shit, I forgot my mask? You know, you justify that as maybe, oh, if I didn't think that and then I didn't have the mask there, I would need to turn around and go get the mask, right? Because you can't go into the store and there would be a whole waste of a trip and so on. But you see, to abstract it again to the next level is going an oh but, a but what if sort of thing. It's a worry. We've gotten so habitual in worrying about things because we feel like we have to. When, well, from my experience in the past 4 months, I've been trying to just literally not worry. It's working. It's crazy on a complete, a complete crazy scale. I've just stopped worrying about things. Not only that, in terms of helping in a practical sense, in terms of my day to day, when I'm meditating, I'm trying to get to the deep meditative states and stuff, and the highest states of conscious experience that I felt have been void of worry, and it helps to get there by not worrying. That's also sort of path to get there. So twofold benefits here, big time. A practical day to day. I stopped being able to conceptualize time. I was living in the moment, and not thinking about days and weeks and these ideas that literally someone would tell me, oh, next month or next week we're doing whatever, and straight over my head. I literally wasn't able to imagine how long that was. I was like, bro, there's so many moments between now and like next week. This idea of next week, like all these days have to pass. There's so many moments in those days and stuff, and like I'm totally not worrying about that. I'm not thinking about it. It just boom, straight in one ear, out the other, way over my head. And well, it didn't matter. Maybe in that moment, I would maybe process it, put it into the calendar if I felt like I had to, and that was it. Move on with the next stuff. It just, we would talk about like, oh, I'm gonna graduate school in a year. A year feels like an eternity. There's so much time. There's so much moment in between now and whatever we think about as a year. In a practical sense, literally, I can't conceptualize. I can't imagine kind of what that would be like. I can like force myself to remember certain like milestones in my memory that are a year apart and be like, wow, that's how much I grew or whatever. That's how many events that I remember happened over a course of a year. But when you limit your experience to the plus or minus a day, right, and you just kind of move in this like window of plus or minus a day through experience, yeah, you don't need the time anymore, man. You don't need to worry about next week and next month and why waste energy contemplating these sorts of things that you don't need to worry about. You can use that energy in other places. Use that energy in focusing on making the most of this moment, and then all the other the stuff will come, and then you just focus on enjoying the moment then. It's honestly amazed me how much things have just seemed to work out. Give it a go. Give it a try. You really have to lean into this one though. It can't be like, oh, I'm gonna live in the moment for like a day, and then you're actually gonna be low-key thinking about, oh, after this day is it gonna work, and you're gonna be back around ruminating that stuff. You're probably not even gonna be aware of it. This is where meditation comes in. You gotta start meditating, start observing the mind, start bringing yourself to an awareness of just the now, and flow with that. it takes practice, it takes time. For these 4 months, I've also been meditating almost like 2 hours a day consistently. I'll either do, formal meditation or meditating while doing something else, breath work throughout the day. It takes practice, but very high yield. Very high yield indeed. All right, everyone, I'm going to cut it off for now. I have no idea how long this recording went. I feel like we talked about a bunch of different topics. I might chop it up. Enjoy.